everyone, so we are back with another adventure today. We're going to dive a little bit more into the Native Americans and just learn a little bit more about their history and also what led up to the Trail of Tears that eventually made all the Native Americans push out west. And that all began when President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act of the 1830s, which ultimately began the Trail of Tears, which went through 9 different states, over 5,000 miles. So that it was a very long walk and a very long trail. You can actually walk some of the Trail of Tears. I've actually been on some of the locations where the Trail of Tears was, or you know, they went through during their time on the Trail of Tears. I've even was at one location. I got a video of it as well. It was at the Red Clay historic park up there near the Chattanooga area. That is actually where the Trail of Tears started. So I'll leave the link to that video as well in the description, so you guys can click on that if you guys would like to view that. Make sure you guys hit the like button as well. Post any comments that you guys may have. I love reading comments. I love replying back to you guys. I appreciate all the support that you guys are giving, both on the Facebook page as well as on the YouTube channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive in. So, a little bit about the Native Americans. Well, it was long before Christopher Columbus stepped foot on what would come to be known as the Americas. The expansion territory was inhabited by Native Americans throughout the 16th and 17th century. As more explorers sought to colonialize their land, Native Americans responded in various stages, from corporations to indigent to revolt. After siding with the French in numerous battles during the French and Indian War, and eventually being forcibly removed from their homes under Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act, Native American population were demolished in size and territory by the end of the 19th century. 1492, Christopher Columbus lands on Caribbean island after 3 months of traveling. Believing at first that he had reached the East Indies, he described the natives he met as Indians. On his first day, he orders 6 natives to be seized as servants. April 1513, Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon lands on continental North America and Florida and makes contact with Native Americans. February 1521, Ponce de Leon departs on another voyage to Florida from San Juan to start a colony. Months after landing, Ponce de Leon is attacked by local Native Americans and fatally wounded. May 1539, Spanish explorer and conquistador Hernando de Soto lands in Florida to conquer the region. He explores the South under the guidance of Native Americans who had been captured along the way. October 1540, De Soto and Spaniards plan to rejuvenate revenants with ships in Alabama when they're attacked by Native Americans. Hundreds of Native Americans are killed in the ensuing battle. 1595, Pocahontas is born, daughter of Chief Pahota. 1607, Pocahontas' brother kidnaps Captain John Smith from the Jamestown colony. Smith later writes that after being threatened by Chief Pahota, he was saved by Pocahontas. This scenario is debated by the historians. 1613, Pocahontas is captured by Captain Samuel Algier in the First Anglo-Pahota War. While captive, she learns to speak Spanish or English, converts to Christianity, and is given the name Rebecca. 1622, the Algonquian Confederacy nearly wipes out Jamestown colony. 1680, a revolt of Pueblo Native Americans in New Mexico threatened Spanish rule over New Mexico. 1754, the French and Indian War begins, pitting the two groups against English settlement in the north. May 15th, 1756, the 7 Years' War between the British and the French begins with North America allegiance aiding the French. May 7th, 1763, Ottawa Chief Pontiac leads Native American forces into battle against the British in Detroit. The British retaliate by attacking Pontiac warriors in Detroit on July 31st in what is known as the Battle of Bloody Run. Pontiac and company successfully fend them off, but there are several casualties on both sides. 1785, the Treaty of Hopewell is signed in Georgia, protecting Cherokee Native Americans in the United States and sectioning off their land. 1788 and 89, Sacagawea is born. 1791, the Treaty of Holston is signed, in which the Cherokee give up all their land outside of their borders and previously established. August 20th, 1794, the Battle of Timbers, the last major battle over Northwest Territory between Native Americans and the United States following the Revolutionary War, commences and results in U.S. victory. November 2nd, 1804, Native American Sacagawea, while 6 months pregnant, meets explorers Mayweather Lewis and William Clark during their expedition of the territory of the Louisiana Purchase. The explorers realize her value as a translator. April 7th, 1805, Sacagawea, along with her baby and husband, Tezin Charbon, joined Lewis and Clark on their voyage. November 18th, 11th, U.S. forces attacked Native American War Chief Tecosum and his younger brother, Liwiki. Their community at the junction of the Timpecanoe and Wabash rivers is destroyed. June 18, 1812, President James Madison signs a declaration of war against Britain, beginning the war between U.S. forces and the British, French, and Native Americans over independence. Territory expansion. March 27, 1814, Andrew Jackson, along with U.S. forces and Native American allies, attacked Creek Indians who opposed American expansion and encroachment of their territory in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. The Creeks ceded more than 220 million acres of their land after their loss. May 28, 1830, President Andrew Jackson signs the Indian Removal Act, which gives plots of land west of the Mississippi to Native American tribes in exchange for land that is taken from them. 1836, the last of the Creek Native Americans leave their land for Oklahoma as part of the Indian removal process. Over the 15,000 Creeks who make their voyage to Oklahoma, more than 3,500 don't survive. 1838, with only 2,000 Cherokees having left their land in Georgia to cross the Mississippi River, President Martin Van Buren enlists General Winfield Scott and 7,000 troops to speed up the process by holding them at gunpoint and marching them 1,200 miles. More than 5,000 Cherokee die as a result of the journey. The series of relocation of the Native American tribes and their hardship and deaths during the journey would become known as the Trail of Tears. 1851, Congress passes the Indian Appropriation Act, creating the Indian reservation system. Native Americans aren't allowed to leave the reservation without permission. October 1860, a group of Apache Native Americans attacked and kidnapped a white American, resulting in the U.S. military falsely accusing the Native American leader of the Chiricahua Apache tribe Cochise, and the Apache increased raids on white Americans for a decade afterwards. November 29, 1864, 650 Colorado volunteer forces attacked Cheyenne and Alpo encampments along Sand Creek, killing and mutilating more than 150 American Indians during what would become known as the Sandy Creek Massacre. 1873, Crazy Horse encounters General George Armstrong Custer for the first time. 1874, gold discovered in South Dakota's Black Hills drives U.S. troops to ignore a treaty and invade the territory. June 25, 1876, in the Battle of Little Bighorn, also known as Custer's Last Stand, Lieutenant Colonel George Custer's troops fought Moccasin's and Cheyenne warriors led by Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull along Little Bighorn River. Custer and his troops are defeated and killed, increasing tensions between Native Americans and white Americans. October 6, 1879, the first students attend Carleton Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania, the country's first off-reservation boarding school. The school, created by Civil War veteran Richard Henry Pate, is designed to assimilate Native American students. February 8, 1887, President Grover Cleveland signs the Dawes Act, giving the president the authority to divide up land allotted to Native Americans and reservations to individuals. December 15, 1890, Sitting Bull is killed during a confrontation with Indian police in Grand River, South Dakota. December 29, 1890, U.S. Armed Forces surround Ghost Dancers lead by Chief Bigfoot near Wounded Knee Creek in South Dakota, demanding the surrender of their weapons. An estimate 150 Native Americans were killed in Wounded Knee massacre, along with 25 men with the U.S. Cavalry. January 29, 1907, Charles Curtis becomes the first Native American U.S. Senator. September 1918, Choctaw soldiers used their native language to transmit secret messages for U.S. troops during World War I misuse and golden events on the Western Front. The Choctaw Telephone Squad provided Allied forces a critical edge over the Germans. June 2nd, 1924, U.S. Congress passes the Indian Citizenship Act, granting citizenship to all Native Americans born in territorial limits of the country. Previously, citizenship had been limited depending on what percentage Native American ancestors a person had, rather they were veterans or if they were women, rather they were married to a U.S. citizen. March 4th, 1929, Charles Curtis serves as the first Native American U.S. Vice President under President Herbert Hoover. May 1942, members of the Navajo Nation develop a code to transmit messages and radio messages for the U.S. Armed Forces during World War II. Eventually, hundreds of code talkers from multiple Native American tribes served in the U.S. Marines during the war. April 11, 1968, the Indian Civil Rights Act is signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson, granting Native American tribes many of the benefits included in the Bill of Rights. March 15, 2021, Representative Deb Haaland of New Mexico is confirmed as Secretary of the Interior, making her the first Native American to lead a cabinet agency. Growing up in my mother's Pueblo household made me fierce. Haaland tweeted after her confirmation, "I'll be fierce for all of us, our planet, and all of our protected land." Alright, you guys, so that is a little bit a little bit of the history of Native Americans, as well as the birth of Sacagawea, and also the birth of Pocahontas. If you guys are not familiar, now they did make a movie of Pocahontas to kind of give you a little bit of the backstory of the English settlement that came to that area at the time, and that is actually what we know of as Jamestown today, which is located in Virginia. They do have a historic society that you can go tour of the original settlement of Jamestown. There is also the gravesite of Pahota, Pocahontas' dad, that is out there. Now, Pocahontas she died in England, where her body is laid to rest at St. George Cemetery. It's also next to a church out there in England. So I'm hoping that one day I can go to Jamestown, Virginia. Just being able to learn a little bit about Pocahontas and her story. I've also done a lot of research on the story of John Smith as well as Pocahontas, learning a lot of great information about both of them, and the early development of Jamestown, and all the transpiring that took place before Jamestown became Jamestown. So hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to my channel as well. Don't forget to turn on the notification. Post a comment. Any comment is great. I love reading all the comments. I always respond back relatively quick. But with that being said, I love you guys and talk to you guys again soon.